listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host Ashley Case, we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Mary Rounsavell. Mary is a writer, proposal manager, and maker based in Los Angeles, California. She began her career in proposals in 2007 as a technical writer and quickly moved on to positions in capture management and proposal leadership. Mary is currently working as assistant team leader at FCM Travel Solutions, where in addition to managing proposals, she provides team leadership devoted to strategic sales support, content creation, and library management. Mary is an APMP practitioner certified and has been active in the APMP California's mentorship program since 2018. And now Mary also supports the chapter as a board director. Welcome, Mary, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, let's go back to the very beginning. Where were you born? Let's talk about your high school and education.
Yeah. Well, I was born here in Southern California, where I still live. I've never really lived north of where I live now. My family's been here for a long time. I was raised back and forth between San Diego and way outside the Los Angeles area. I went to two high schools because we were moving around. And I finished up in a little town north of San Diego called Poway, where my mom still lives. After that, I went off to Pitzer College, which is east of Los Angeles, about 40 miles. And it's a very small school, but it's part of the Claremont colleges. We like to compare them to the characters in Scooby-Doo, and Pitzer was definitely Shaggy. But it was a great school for me because it was a place where I could kind of design my own major and I could study what I wanted. And one of the guys who really convinced me to go there was a human biology and studio art major. He had combined the two, and I was like, yes, this is the place for me. So I was excited about designing my own major, but I ended up majoring in English and world literature, which was super standard because I only had to take a handful of required classes, and then I could spend the rest of my time taking other classes like cars and culture in Southern California and history of comedy and things like that. And I could also study abroad. So I went and lived in Norwich, England for a semester and explored the beat poets there and took a class called The Limits of American Writing, which was just delightful. I loved it. So that's my education. I did not continue after my BA, but I am a lifelong learner and student of everything.
That's amazing, Mary. I think one of the best things about doing degrees in the United States is your ability to pick classes like what you just said, human biology and arts, right? It's impossible, literally impossible to do anything like that elsewhere. So it gives you that flavor. Like, and imagine you do engineering and then go and do, I don't know, as you rightly said, music together as one degree, right? But you know what, that's one great thing I really love about States. And the second one that you mentioned was, you also studied English literature, then you also went on to do that in Norwich. Funnily enough, Ashley's, my co-host Ashley Case, Ashley's mother's family is from Norwich, England.
Oh, how funny. Yeah, I loved it. It's maybe the sunniest place I experienced when I was in the UK. Yeah. So it was right up my alley, being a Southern California girl.
Totally. And it also, people say that I was there for 1.5 years because I was also supporting a healthcare trust. You might have heard in UK we have something called NHS, right? So National Health Services. So I was working for Norfolk and Norwich Hospital Trust there, supporting them. So in Norfolk and Norwich has one of the purest air in whole of UK. So people say that if you take a train from London and if you are like 20 miles, 15 miles to Norfolk or Norwich, you start to sleep because because the air is so pure. So yeah, I mean, like I thought I'll share that. That's brilliant. So you went to Norwich and you came back, and
Mhm.
you had some very cool jobs in between. You entered the proposal industry. Very talk us through your journey of working in multiple roles even before you started in proposal industry.
Oh yeah, I have quite the resume. I before I even went off to college, I worked at the what was then called the Wild Animal Park out in Escondido, and that is part of the San Diego Zoological Society, and it that was amazing. I was kind of a teacher. We did school, like summer camp kind of stuff for kids, and I worked with kids from preschool who were asking me, how long the cheetahs had been married, which was really cute, up to high school kids who really weren't that much younger than me. And so you want to be a keeper kind of classes, and that was really fun. I continued to do that when I was going home for the summers. But after I had my English degree, I realized I didn't really want to teach. I mean, teaching about animals and stuff was really fun, but I didn't want to move into a high school setting. I did get my teaching certificate, but that seemed like the only kind of legit career opportunity for me, and I was just way too interested in other things. So I took your standard let's pay the rent kind of retail jobs, and I worked in a bookstore up in Pasadena, and worked with people who were kind of shocked that I had read most of the books. And I was like, well, I'm an English major, and that was kind of shocking to some clients and people who came through that store, but it was really fun place to be. And I enjoyed it. I left that job and I was an operations manager for an art publishing company, because what I really wanted to do when I graduated from college, rather than teach, was to get into publishing. And so I had planned to go to New York, and that was a great idea when I signed my 6-month lease in Los Angeles in the spring of 2001, but it wasn't such a great idea to move to New York in the fall of 2001 for a variety of reasons. And I was kind of terrified. So I just stayed in LA and bounced around, and I worked at the bookstore, and I worked as an operations manager for an art publishing company, which I discovered was really like manufacturing wall decor. It was a very small company, but they sent me to China to kind of check in on processes and things. And that was a really exciting opportunity for me. I learned so much more about the world, even if it was just a tiny part of it. But that really opened my eyes, and I got to see Hong Kong, and I got to see what's across the water in Guangzhou and those areas. And after I worked there for a while, I had a friend who was working at a staffing company, and he was like the corporate videographer. He's a great friend of mine from college. And he called me and said, "Do you know what a technical writer is?" And I said, "No, of course not, but I will find out. Get me the interview," because I wanted to do anything to do with writing at that point. And I went and interviewed, and I got the job, and it turned out to be proposal management. So I was working on at this staffing company doing, state, local kind of bids, and making sure that all of our branches everywhere had a contract with their local government entities, or a school district or a water district or something like that. And from there, there was a federal proposal division managing larger contracts. And so I was promoted into a capture manager kind of job, which I also didn't know anything about. And I did that, and then I would manage the proposals when they came in, once we had identified our teaming partners and all of those things. So we worked frequently as a subcontractor. So it was a really interesting way for me to cut my teeth on federal proposals. And I had a couple of other, well, let me see. Yeah, I had another proposal management job after that, working on military contracts. And then I went to an APMP conference and I met a woman there who was working for the company I work for now. And she said, "Do you know anybody who's looking for work?" And I had never worked in a business to business type situation, but she seemed to be having fun. And the stories she was telling me about the company she worked for were really exciting to me. And so I came over here, and now I've been with FCM for, I think, 7 years. I don't know, I'd have to look at my LinkedIn, but it's been a while and it's been a really fun ride. I get to travel again. Well, not in the last year and a half, obviously, but I do get to go very exciting places, but I also get to stay at home and work. And that was one change I didn't have to make during COVID. But yeah, and I think you give a really good description of what I do here now. So.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing. Do you have early memories of your very first proposal that you wrote?
Oh, my very first proposal was for a little city in Florida called Coral Springs. And I don't even remember what entity it was for, but I was trained by very kind and generous people who basically explained to me that I was filling out a form, and here was the checklist for that form to fill out. And I, like any good little English major, sweated about that proposal for a really long time. And what I learned quickly, because in a few short months, I was doing that kind of proposal in my sleep. But I will always remember Coral Springs, because it sounds like such a nice place. I've never been there.
That's brilliant. Okay. From then on, all the way to now managing a team of people, working as a team leader, you've come so far. Talk us through your team currently, and also any interesting projects that you've worked on as well, Mary.
Yeah, I've worked on a lot of interesting projects. I think at every company I worked for, there've been things that I really liked learning about. And I think that has been my favorite part of proposals, is learning very specific things that I have no business knowing otherwise, except that I need to explain them to our clients in a, compliant and customer-centric way. So right now there are 3 of us on the team. We do have a team leader. She is she's kind of the global content director now, which is very exciting. And then there are 2 of us proposal managers. So I'm currently the assistant team lead, but I have been the team lead when she was on leave. Our team has flexed a lot. I think when I was brought on board, there were only 2. So then there were 3, and we brought on a 4th, and our team was up to, I think, 6 people there for a minute before things started to happen with COVID. And so sadly, there were furloughs all across the travel industry, obviously, but in many other places too. So right now it's just the 3 of us, and 2 are back east, and I'm out here on the West Coast. I'm sort of a lone ranger. A lot of our company is based over on the East Coast, but we've worked virtually together the entire time that I've been with the company. So that has been just great for me, because working in an office, I can be a little bit of a butterfly and it gets a little distracting, and being at home makes me very focused on what I'm doing.
Perfect. It's amazing how some people, the whole work situation has improved drastically, very less travel, unnecessarily travel, but much more focused. But on the other side, there are people with kids, it became a nightmare. Right? The kids are running around.
Well, anybody with a pile of dishes in the sink knows exactly how easy it is to distract yourself from projects you don't want to work on.
Exactly, totally. Even now, I've given a few candies and put the TVs on for my kids while we record this podcast. So they know clearly. Absolutely, they know, Daddy, when is your next meeting again? Because in that way, they
know how to work the system.
Exactly. So they thoroughly enjoy the current situation. That's great. Yes, Mary. So you also touched, you actually joined the APMP, and during the APMP, one of the conference, you met your colleague, and now you have been with the firm for 7 years. So when did you join APMP as a member? And is there any memorable big conferences coming to your mind before you even went ahead and then became a board member with the California chapter?
Yeah, well, I became an APMP member right before that that first conference, actually, because I had been kind of sniffing around looking for other work, and I hate to admit this, but I was not aware of APMP until somebody asked me about it on a job interview. So I actually got quite far into my career before I realized there was, a whole group of us out there that weren't just attending pre-bid meetings and things like that. And I just lit up by the whole thing, or was lit up by the whole thing, because that training day that California's chapter runs every year in October is at Disneyland. I mean, it's super fun. Even we're in a conference room. We're very serious most of the time, but I think that first one was probably the most memorable, and I've attended all the training days since then. I went to one bid and proposal con that was in San Diego, and that's where I got my practitioner certification. So that one is very memorable to me because when in the old practitioner certification, when you were basically writing a gigantic RFP about yourself and figuring out what your past performance was on various tasks, it forced me to sit in a room and actually do it. And so I remember the blood, sweat, and tears of that day. But yeah, I think the most memorable conference has been that first one where I met Karen and, came to be the person I am now. And I met all the people on the board, and everybody's just, it's a fun group to be a part of. So they didn't have to do a lot of arm twisting when they needed somebody on the board.
Perfect. So you've been on the board from 2018 here, California chapter. Talk us through about California chapter. I remember the very first guest I had from California was Dick. That was my very early episodes, like last year around June, July time. From then on, we have got a few more guests like Heather and recently Tara and a few others. But talk us through the APMP California chapter and tell us the interesting initiatives that our chapter does, Mary.
Yeah, the California chapter is a great chapter. And I think that we maybe beat ourselves up about not taking advantage of the gigantic area that we geographically occupy. But I think that we're a very active chapter, and every one of us on the board is doing our best to make sure that our chapter members feel heard and have access to resources that they need. So like last year was actually my first year on the board, though I did do the mentorship program outside of that. But last year was interesting because so many people were in flux, and they were worried about their jobs, or they were losing their jobs, or they were changing jobs, or blah 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 blah. Like everybody seemed to have a career that was up in the air. So something that we did was to run certification scholarships and make sure that people had access to extra letters after their names, so that when they did reapply for work, that would be a boost for them. So we do that. There's a new committee this year for the intentional career path, which I'm pretty excited about. I mean, obviously my history is everything but intentional in terms of career path, but I'm really excited to see how we're incorporating students and newer people into proposals, because everybody just falls into it, and we all say that. And I think that it's going to be a different industry if we start talking to people earlier about what is involved with proposals, even if they just end up having jobs where they are, now aware of this kind of group and how business is obtained and won. I think that'll be a great addition. Dick, yeah, you mentioned Dick. He's the chair again this year, so he just started his next term, and I'm looking forward to all the kind of stuff that's going to happen this year. We're going to meet back in person at Disneyland in October. I'm really excited to see everybody other than our, Zoom calls. Yeah, I love California chapter, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. I love Tara's coffee chats every month. Those are really great. I think there's actually one this morning that I had to bail on, but there's so much going on in the California chapter's activities, and I just hope more people can join them and see what we're all about and get the commiseration that is so fun about being around a bunch of other proposal managers, but also just access to other ways of doing things and that kind of cross-pollination that makes professional organization so important to people's professional development.
Wow, Mary, that's amazing. I wish you and our California chapter all the success and enjoy, inspire, and you know what, definitely wish you and team all the good success to help a lot of other people in the community. That's great. So so far, Mary, we talked a little bit more professional, your early life career, a little bit about APMP, and in between all the cool jobs that you did. So let's loosen up even more and get to know into the Nutters round in honor of Forward Nut or the rapid random fire question round. 2 questions before we get into that. Tell us 3 things not many people know about you, followed up by your hobbies and interests.
Well, if you know me in person, you know this, but I'm very tall. And what a lot of people don't know is that I used to lie on my driver's license and say that I was actually shorter than 6 feet tall because I didn't want to admit that I was 6 feet tall. See what else. I'm a fiber artist, and I'm getting real honest about it. I've got dye pots going right now behind me. You can't see me, but there are buckets all over my office right now full of stuff that is changing colors, and I'm really excited about that. And let's see, third thing is that I really like black licorice. I don't know what else to say about that, but I think people find that repulsive sometimes, and not I.
You have to be yourself, Mary. That's what makes Mary a Mary, right? So forget about what
everyone else is taken.
Exactly, Mary. Exactly. That's nice. So, Mary, I know you have your absolute passion on so many things. Let's talk us through your hobbies and interests as well, Mary.
All right. Well, as mentioned, I am a fiber artist. I dabble in all kinds of different making crafts kind of things. I'm a painter. I'm a knitter. I have been playing with spoon carving, which is a really great way to wind down from a tense conference call, if you ask me. And I've not cut any fingers off yet, so that's good. But I find that I was just actually talking to someone about this a couple of days ago, but I find that I have to have a lot of projects going because it gives me kind of not compartments, but places to put my different energies and to sort of work out what I need to be doing on a proposal while I'm doing something else. People say, they get their best ideas in the shower or something where they can't be distracted. But I get my best ideas when I am sitting there knitting on the couch doing stitch after stitch, and, a lightning bolt will come to me, and it sounds nerdy, but then all of a sudden I know exactly what needs to happen with that quality control response I've been thinking about for too long. I garden. it's a struggle, but it's very hot outside right now, so I'm not doing much of it. But my big dream is to be able to dye fabrics and fibers from things that I've grown on my own property. So I've got pomegranates going, and I've got my indigo seeds, so it's happening. I've got a lot of hobbies. I could go on and on and on. Bosco, you're gonna cut me off.
No, I think it just tells, like maybe we might have one or two hobbies in the past, but again, positively, what COVID has given people is an opportunity to do more, right? So, and I'm glad, and even before you were doing hundreds, Mary, and you have added even more to your hobbies. I mean, like continue.
I'm an introvert. I was born for COVID quarantine.
Exactly. That's nice. I think, continue to learn and learn and learn. I think that's super important, as you rightly said. Brilliant. So, we are getting there, but officially we'll enter the Nutters round, or the rapid random fire question round. There is no right or wrong answer. Pretty much all are stupid questions, but that's okay. That's what we are doing. But it's fine. Let's just go for it. So, name three similarities in knitting a cloth and making a proposal.
Wow. Well, one stitch at a time. You can't do everything all at once. That is for sure. And interestingly, knitting and language have a lot of similarities in that they are back and forth, and many of the first written words were written not right to left all the time, but back and forth, like things are woven or knitted. And that is not necessarily similar, but it is definitely what a knitted garment looks like in its early stages, and a wall of text if you are not using your graphics properly.
Good one, Mary. Because you studied human biology when you was there, is there any part of the human structure, top to bottom, that, with your artistic hat, you would say, no, I don't like that, I might change it? Is there anything comes to mind how the human body has evolved and you would like to change it?
Oh, there are so many design flaws. Well, I will speak of myself then. I would definitely change knees. Terrible knees, and my kneecaps like to fall off at random for no good reason, and I would definitely strap them on with something stronger.
Got it. Looks like you already have thought it through. That's great. So you mentioned that you are an ardent writer. You write pretty much all the time, and you are addicted to writing. If you are writing a book about yourself, what will be the title of your autobiography?
Oh, I didn't name my autobiography, but one of my best friends in college did, and she named it Pocket Full of Stupid. So I have to give her credit for that, but it's a really good title for a book.
Good one. Definitely Pocket Full of Stupid. That's good. So do you have a favorite book or a movie or a TV show? Anything?
Ooh, yeah, I have a lot of books that I really like and I return to. Probably the one I've been returning to for the longest is John Steinbeck's East of Eden. And I probably read it in junior high the first time, and I didn't understand a damn word of it, but it was really long and it kept me occupied all summer. And so I read it almost every summer, and then I didn't for maybe 5-10 years. I didn't read it, and I recently went back to it last summer, and it was just as good as I remember it. It's just such a great story. There's so many things wrong with it that you would never be able to write today, but there are some ideas in there. I will encourage everybody to look up Tim Shell, which is a made-up word, but the concept as it's described in that book is just beautiful. And thinking about the way the world looked at that point always makes my summer.
Wow, that's nice. Favorite movie or a or a TV show?
Oh, my favorite movie is Raising Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great. And it will never not make me laugh. But I haven't watched that in a while. I did recently watch The Big Lebowski, and it's just as funny as I remember it. So I guess I'm a Coen Brothers comedy girl.
Yeah, totally. I even had a question. What made you laugh or smile recently? Is that watching that movie or something else?
Oh, I don't even remember what I was laughing about, but I was laughing so hard over the weekend. We had a friend over, um, and our first maskless gathering. It was so exciting, and we were just rolling on the patio laughing. It was so much fun, but I don't even remember what we were talking about.
Got it, got it, got it. That's nice. That's nice. So I've been told, because I I would even pretend that I'm a great writer, because for me it's all spoken and listening. I'm that type of a person. I even transcribe my emails, I record it, and I transcribe
Oh,
them.
that's smart.
Yeah, that's it. I've been totally out of writing emails for now. And people know me that if you send me an email, you will need to wait for my response for quite a bit of a time because I instead text me, call me, just be
Mm-hmm.
human. Don't just send an email and then walk away. The reason for this long-winded thing is, as arts, as writers, I've been hearing that there is something called pet peeve. Do you have any biggest pet peeve or something? If Ashley is there, I'm sure she will nail this question. I'm just pretending I'm a writer and I'm going to ask you this. Very.
Yeah, my pet peeve is misspelling the various versions of your. It
Uh-huh.
drives me crazy. And I don't know why, because maybe this is exactly why. Maybe I've answered my own question, but because it's so embarrassing to me when I misspell your, but your
Correct.
gets me. Other ones like there, and there, that actually doesn't bother me as much, even though it's the exact same issue, but your drives me straight up the wall. So,
Mm.
word to anyone who does send me an email, I will wince. I will forgive you, but I will wince when I read it because I will wince when I read it.
Totally. That's a strong message to every single listener when you do
Yeah,
write
yeah.
an
All y'all
email.
out there.
Exactly. She's watching. She's watching. That's good. So uh, let's talk this. So if you had to choose a completely new profession, this is an easy question for you. What would
Mm,
you pick?
I would, yeah, one that I've never done. Okay, right?
Mm.
Hmm. I would I would be a fire lookout. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but I've been reading articles about the sort of cabins on top of the mountains where people in, they're always such like great saga kind of stories about people just kind of left on top of these mountains with a pair of binoculars. And some of these places have been abandoned and you can go stay in them now, which
Right.
I would like to do. But I think that would be my career after this year of isolation. I want further isolation. No, no, I want to see all my friends first, and then I will go be a fire lookout.
Exactly, exactly. I think there are some very cool jobs, like you said. I mean, like looking after a no man's island, like there is this big island and there's nobody there. You need to just look after this island or something. There are some very cool jobs that's been advertised recently in Australia and in some random places about these islands. and
Yeah.
uh, like how you kind of buy a new home and you can't live there, so you ask somebody else to go and stay. You just buy an island and then you give it to
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah, that looks great. I just read about a position, and I think it was, well, I'm sure this made better headlines in the UK, but there was somewhere, it was a castle, and they were
Yeah,
looking for like a castle somebody to look after the castle all of the
yeah.
time, but it would just be you there by yourself like 6 days out of the week. And I thought that sounds good, me rattling around in a castle.
Oh my god. You're super special, and I'm sure some listeners will get some tips from there. You might get some random calls where you never know.
I am all about professional development. If you want to rattle around in a castle, I will help you find the way.
That's cool. What's the most interesting thing that you have read or seen this week or this month that really, wow, that's weird, or that's interesting, or that's stupid, anything like that?
Oh no, because I subscribe to a newsletter called Atlas Obscura, and I think like daily there's something in there that I think, what? This morning it was about whether or not you can eat tulip bulbs. And it referred to a whole article. I haven't even clicked on it yet, but I was just like fascinated by this concept of people after the Second World War who were running out of food and eating tulip bulbs. Like, what? What can you do with a tulip bulb? That's so fascinating to me.
That's really a cool response, that one, Mary. Thank you. So, if you're arrested with no explanation, what do you think your friends and family would assume that you had done?
Oh dear. There are so many things that they would assume. Probably, oh, that's a really good one. They would probably think I was mouthing off at somebody and getting myself into trouble with my words. Or impersonating someone. Not like impersonating a police officer, but just, I was trying to get away with being a Romanoff kid.
Perfect, Mary. I think, we all have done that, don't we? Some form or the other, and it's good. So, Mary, I know you already have a different career profession. Assuming you become a professional wrestler, what would your ring name be and why?
It's funny you should mention that. I do have a friend who is a wrestler, or was a wrestler. That's how he trained in high school. And we always get out our Mexican wrestling masks and pretend to wrestle whenever we're at a big party, which is hilarious because he looks like a wrestler and I do not. What would my name be? I think he named me the Banana. So it would probably be the Banana because that is what he would yell at me. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to be a banana. I don't like bananas.
That's a deeper question to take, Mary.
Yeah, you've given me so much to take away from this.
Totally.
Question my entire life.
Very rarely people say that to me, at least you are taking away something from this podcast, which is good news, Mary. So the last two questions before we wrap around to your family, wider members and others. So what is something that you have that is of sentimental value to you?
I have, I'm looking at it right now, but I have an Afghan that my mother knit for me and my husband when we were married. And I just really like it. It's blue, and I mean, she's made a bunch of them, but ours is bright and colorful, and it reflects, because knitting is so important to me, and my mom taught me to knit. It's just an important piece of fabric that sits on our couch. That's nice. I would definitely save that in the fire.
Oh yeah, you should totally. So if you are stranded in a deserted island, that tower that we talked about, or this island, and what 3 items would you take with you?
Ooh, I would take a deck of cards. I would take can the deck of cards come with like different kinds of solitaire rule book?
Yeah, it's totally.
It's so nerdy that I would be on an island making myself follow rules. But I wouldn't take anything with a screen. I would take something weird, like a dictionary or something that just had a lot of random entries that I could, turn to any page and read something, and I could look at it as an oracle when I started to go crazy. And I would take, well, I probably have to be practical and take some kind of water desalinization thing. I don't know if that exists, but I would need one.
This is the most unique response I've ever received for this question, Mary.
Oh no.
This is going into Hall of Fame episode, I can tell you, totally.
Oh dear.
Mary, that's the random rapid fire question round, or Howard Nutters round done. Hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
Yeah, thank you. So who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Well, I think my mom, who I just mentioned, but in addition to teaching me to knit, she was always the person who would, buy me whatever book I wanted at the bookstore within reason. But when I was a kid, because she knew that I wouldn't necessarily understand themes that were bigger than what I was able to conceptualize at the point. And, that's how I got into stuff like East of Eden. But I also read a lot of weird stuff like Naked Lunch, and I had no idea what that book was about, but that's probably a good thing. When I read it later for school, I was like, oh, that's different. Why did I read that so young? But I think my mom has been really great at allowing me to be me, that idea that everyone else is taken, so you have to be yourself. I get a lot of that from my mom. And I think, my best friend since college has been very inspirational to me. I'm very grateful for, I don't think I tell her this enough, but she inspires me by example. And in the way that you try and keep up with your friends, I'm always trying to keep up with her. So I'm very grateful for her for that. And lately, it's kind of a group of people. It's people who are professionally inspiring me right now. And a lot of those people sit on the California board. And so they know who they are, and you can all look at our website and see who they are. But people who are making things happen, whether or not they, can devote 110% of their energy to it, they're making it happen anyway. Those are people who inspire me.
Wow, there is a lot of love around you, Mary. And I'm sure people who share love, they get back a lot of love. So wish you a lot more love and a lot more people relationships in your life. That's great. So who is the kindest person you know?
Oh, the kindest person? I think COVID has been an interesting time to see kindness in people, because the kindest people I know right now are people who are taking, compassion is the big lesson from this, and people who understand that there's a lot going on with other people, regardless of what we see on the surface. When they're snappy, there's something else going on. And I think my boss right now is doing a lot of that, just kind of, not asking about it, but just understanding that there's a lot going on right now. So, and that, so many people are doing that. And I think that that's been really beautiful to see in this whole pandemic thing. But understanding what's underneath is always important, but understanding that there is something underneath, whether you know what it is or not, and having compassion for that is very important.
Totally, Mary, totally. You nailed it there. Mary, what's one personal trait you like the most about yourself?
Well, I like being tall, now that I can admit it.
Definitely, that's a good one.
No, I like that. That's like not really a personal trait. That's genetics, right? So I think being interested and being curious is probably, well, it's the thing that gets me in the most trouble, but it's the thing that gets me the most satisfaction out of life.
Totally, Mary. So you mentioned, we talked a lot about COVID today, and people who are hearing this in the next 3, 5 years, hopefully you'll be wondering, what are they talking about? What's COVID? Or we might still be talking COVID variant
Oh gosh, yeah.
2047. You never know.
Yeah.
So, any case, what's that? What have you observed lately in this past, 1.5 years that reminded you that people are good?
Well, certainly, our ability to empathize when that shines through, and when people are able to understand that something is underneath, even if they don't know what it is, and have compassion for it and kindness. That has always reminded me that people are good, whether it's COVID or not. If you can just give people grace, I think it's that. And I've seen that at work. I've seen that on my board. I've seen that with my friends. I was just having a conversation with my friend Emily yesterday about that, and just kind of understanding what's going on with other people. And I really, really appreciate that kind of daily reminder. Yeah, it's something you might have to look for. It's, the stopping and smelling the roses of COVID, but to find out what's going on is one thing, but to just understand that other things are going on with other people, and to give them grace. That reminds me every day that people are good.
100%. Mary, so Mary, what's that one common myth in our proposal industry that you would like to debunk in our profession?
Ooh, a common myth. I've worked with a lot of people whose primary complaint, and I'm going to be honest, I mean, I love the people I worked with and the people I work with now, but the idea that we're all good at graphic design, or we're all good at, making things look pretty, that proposal managers are kind of document jockeys, and we need something cleaned up. That is not true. I am not that person. Everybody on my team knows I'm not that person. If you want it to look good, send it to somebody else. I will unPDF it for you, but beyond that, that's the extent of my my artistic skills when it comes to proposal. For people in proposals, I think the biggest myth I would want to dispel is that you're not an expert in something. I think proposal managers can be, it's not that we lack confidence, but that we don't think we have enough to tell people. We don't think we have enough to tell our peers. And I think all you need to be a good advice giver is to be one step ahead of the person that you're giving advice to. Like, if they're on a journey, you just need to be like half a step ahead to be totally qualified and to give valuable advice to people. Because I know I sought advice in places where it wasn't going to happen early on in my career. And the people that I learned the most from were people who were just a little bit ahead. So I would encourage proposal managers to dispel the myth that they don't know enough to be good mentors.
Well said, Mary. Well said on that. Mary, what's the best piece of advice you have received, and from whom?
Oh man, I was just talking about this yesterday with Emily. I think one of the best and worst pieces of advice that I ever received was from another proposal manager who'd been doing this a lot longer than I had. And it was right when I started out, and he said, "Marie, you can't care more than they do." And I was like, what? Because I was really worried about my little Coral Springs proposal, and I really wanted it to come out just perfect. I don't know if it was the Coral Springs proposal that I was working on at the time, but it was one of those ones where I was sweating harder than I needed to, because the person I was working with wasn't sweating as hard as I needed to. But it was the worst piece of advice, because it really didn't give me what I needed to do to get to the end of my day. But it is a great piece of advice because it applies to so many things, not just proposals. If you're working on something in your relationship, like you need to meet people where they're at, if that makes sense, and bring the same level of energy to the table that they are. You can't make people care more.
Wow.
You can try. Maybe that was too cynical. I shouldn't have admitted that.
It's very profound advice when you think deeper about, there is, as they always say, expectations leads to entanglement, right? So when you think, oh my God, I'm doing all these things and you're not doing anything. I'm putting all this effort, but what is your team doing? And you know what? I worked over this weekend, but you did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, what's the other one that people say, lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. That's the other side of you can't care more than they do, right?
Yeah. Totally.
It's not an emergency to this person. Just leave it alone.
Yes, that's it. That's well said, Mary. It's very beautiful last few words. Mary, we talked a lot about, your career, early life, your hobbies, interests, few random questions and people in your life and stuff, APMP California chapter. What's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Oh, in the immediate future, I'm really looking forward to traveling. Actually, no, I'm looking forward to the destination. Traveling still kind of skeeves me out, but I shouldn't say that as a travel professional, but personally, I'm a little nervous. But I'm looking forward to that confidence coming back. People re-entering the world. Professionally, I want that confidence to sort of imbue everything that I'm doing. And to get back into a normal rhythm of things, or at least for what is now happening to feel normal. I could use a little grace for myself, maybe. But I think that's what's next. Looking forward to being a little more sure about what I'm doing and why. Is that too ambiguous? I don't know.
No. I think, it looks like you're on a journey here, and it's important, I think, what COVID has done pretty much, because I turned 40 in this COVID year.
Oh, lucky you.
So, it just gives you that point in your life where just like, whatever happened till date, you have very less time to do whatever the things that you want to do. And this 1.5 years have restricted you even severely, right? So, what is it you need to do it quickly, do it immediate, do it now, do it as today, just like...
Yeah, 40 can feel like a little bit of a halfway point sometimes. You're like, wait, I can only imagine the double whammy of doing it when I was going through a COVID year. Yeah. Exciting. Totally. That's a whole other podcast.
Exactly. Mary, is there any part of your life or career, or is there anything else you would like to say to the listeners in the last minute or two before we close the episode?
I don't think I have any more profundity to espouse, but I definitely I appreciate curiosity, and if anybody is interested in reaching out or needs advice on anything, I'm always out there. I am an easily Googleable person. There's only one of me.
Exactly. There's only one of Mary. It's super important to know that. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining Scribble Talk. It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure to have you with us. Wish you, your family, your loved ones, everybody at the APMP California chapter, and also at your company, all the good health and happiness. Wish, stay sane, stay healthy, stay happy, and continue to inspire everyone. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a real joy.
Thank you, Mary.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, Don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.